Sergio Pérez will take a 3-place grid drop for Spain, with Red Bull also fined €25,000 after the Mexican drove his significantly damaged RB20 car back to the pits during the last race in Montreal. Checo began the Canada weekend on the right foot, with news he had signed a fresh 2-year deal, 1 year plus 1 option, closing out campaigns from main rivals Carlos Sainz and Daniel Ricciardo to replace him, with the brand opting for stability over ultimate pace. Perez was naturally thrilled to get the contract renewal he was after, despite the rest of his Canada weekend being a write-off. "I think we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot more championships to win together," he said. Liam Lawson is considering his future in light of Sergio Pérez's Red Bull extension, with the young New Zealander stating he doesn't know where he slots into the brand's plans. Lawson impressed last season as a 5-race rookie stand-in for Daniel Ricciardo at the then AlphaTauri, with whom he scored his first points in Singapore and outshone teammate Yuki Tsunoda in Japan. And he's been on F1's sidelines ever since, with his contract stating that he must be offered a drive by Red Bull in 2025 or he can walk. Lawson, though, just wants a full-time drive. "I don't want to be in F1 because someone is injured," he said. "I want to be in F1 because a team chooses for me to be there full-time." Alex Albon has opened up further on his decision to stay on at Williams, with the Anglo-Thai racer admitting that the squad's Mercedes power unit deal was for sure a factor. Albon committed his future to Williams last month with a multi-year deal extension, shunning interest from other teams, stating there's clearly so much room now for us to grow. But ahead of Canada, Albon said he's banking on Mercedes nailing the sport's new era from 2026, calling it at least a safe bet. "I think Mercedes time and time again, when it comes to these regulation changes, they seem to be one step ahead of their rivals. Not to say I don't think other teams will do a good job," he said. The eyes of the world were focused on the FIA's Paris headquarters last week, with F1's governing body finally shining a light on the sport's 2026 cars via the release of their technical regulations, which promise a nimble racing car, with revolution seen from front to back that is said to be fully in touch with F1's DNA. F1's power unit will have less engine grunt, but 300% more electrical power with a manual override mode. On the chassis side, it's all about being smaller and lighter, including a drop of 30 kilograms. Gone will be DRS, instead an active aerodynamic system, featuring a movable front and rear wing, with drivers able to switch from Z mode to X mode for low drag on straights. The cars will run on sustainable fuel and will be even safer via stronger structures and tougher tests. But while there's concern from teams that the cars will be too slow in corners and too fast on the straights, the FIA has admitted refinements still need to take place. America's Grand Prix dreams took a step forward last week, with Aston Martin handing Jack Crawford the AMR 22 for his first Formula One test at Austria's Red Bull Ring. The 19-year-old, who currently races an F2 for Dams, completed more than 400 kilometers of running across both short and long runs to get to know the F1 car and tires better. Crawford, from Charlotte, North Carolina, is currently sitting in 11th place in the F2 standings, with his best results so far this year runner-up in the Bahrain sprint race in March. Crawford said his first F1 test was a great experience and that the AMR 22 was like nothing he'd ever driven before, especially in the high-speed sections. The 19-year-old completed his test program with no issues as part of a clean and smooth day at the Red Bull Ring. Former Haas boss Günther Steiner has warned Alpine against signing his ex-pilot Mick Schumacher for 2025, stating, "You need to get the best driver you know is out there." Alpine dominated news headlines ahead of Canada when it announced that Esteban Ocon would be leaving the team at the end of the year. But while the squad is in crisis and one of the least competitive on the grid, it has no shortage of interest in the seat. Schumacher, who is highly rated by the squad and races for the team in the World Endurance Championship, is one of several options for Alpine, with its strongest being reserve Jack Doohan. But when Steiner was recently asked if Alpine should hire Schumi, with whom he worked in 2021 and 2022, the Italian gave a firm no. "You need to get the best driver you know is out there," he said. "I think people who are showing that they're very good." Rumors continue that Williams driver Logan Sargeant will be replaced from this year's Italian Grand Prix by Mercedes junior Andrea Kimi Antonelli, the first weekend after he turns 18. Sargeant looked more competitive in Canada before his crash, with his car the same spec to teammate Alex Albon. But while he's yet to outqualify him this year, Dave Robson, Williams' head of vehicle performance, told the official podcast F1 Nation their cars aren't always alike.
In Monaco, it's fair to say he didn't have the best selection of parts on the car. We just weren't able to provide him with some of the stuff that we were able to provide Alex. The rear wing is an example of that, but also his rear suspension setup was compromised just due to lack of some parts. I think in Monaco, actually, he did an incredibly good job. You know, he didn't damage the car at all, and his pace was actually very good.
Liberty Media CEO Greg Maffei expects Sir Lewis Hamilton's impending switch to Ferrari from 2025 to be box office gold. Hamilton's blockbuster news in January this year made global headlines, while Ferrari's market cap surged by $7 billion. But Maffei, in a chat with F1's official podcast Beyond the Grid, thinks the best is yet to come from the Brits' prancing horse ride.
Enormously exciting. Obviously, Lewis, our most storied driver, won more titles than anyone in the sport today, and Ferrari still our most famed name. Putting the two together is enormously exciting.
Maffei also poured cold water on the sports calendar expanding beyond 24 races, despite surging demand for events in Asia, including South Korea, Thailand, and Indonesia.
Yeah, I think it's highly unlikely we're going to go above 24. Clearly, there's strains at 24, and we're working hard to try and reduce that. Putting the schedule together to these circuits, you're trying to match several constraints.
Formula E could soon see an historic Scarlet addition to its urban grids, with Italian supermarque Ferrari reportedly in exploratory talks with the all-electric series over a future commitment. Ferrari currently races in F1 and the World Endurance Championship, along with efforts in various sports car series. But Formula E could be the next step, with the brand increasingly focused on EV technology, with a new E building at its Maranello HQ. But Formula E isn't expecting it to be the work of a moment. Really nothing concrete at this stage, but I know they have been in touch and discussions have been had, a series spokesperson said. McLaren IndyCar driver Teo Pourchaire says he received death threats following his contact with another driver at the series' Detroit Grand Prix. Pourchaire, 2023's F2 champion, who was competing in just his fourth IndyCar race, made contact with Juncos Hollinger pilot Agustin Canapino after a restart, for which he was duly penalized. But the backlash on social media was swift, with Pourchaire stating that he received so much hate and death threats. "I hope people can understand that we are all humans and we can make mistakes," he said. McLaren and Juncos Hollinger both condemned the online abuse, with their joint statement calling the episode a stark reminder about the necessity for respect and civility in online interactions. Thanks for watching. To stay up to speed on all things Formula One, make sure you hit the subscribe button.